This is Dropped on Soccer's morning show once again from the road. Greetings from Tifton, Georgia today as we make our way toward the mother-in-law's house. And so we're here this morning, and there's a lot to talk about. We do have a lot to talk about this morning, and it's everything from Easter holiday to Open Cup, and there's a lot to talk about Open Cup. And we look at them when the brackets came out last night at 6:30, the pods, the regions. There's a lot of spiciness to get into. Obviously, Atlanta United has their new opponent, and there's some backstory to that too. We'll get into that. We'll get into everything going on this morning when it comes to U.S. Open Cup, the penultimate. Oh, Bama's already annoyed at Open Cup. All right, so we'll get into that in just a bit. Morning, Ricky. Morning, D. Graham. We'll go through the pods. We'll go through all of the subplot, and we'll go through just the third round. We've got that. Greg Garza coming up, Beyond Goals Mentoring, coming up at 9:30. We'll talk to Greg about Yankee Stadium and mentoring aspects and opportunities that can come from adversarial conditions, shall we say. We'll talk to Greg about that and anything else that comes to mind with Beyond Goals Mentoring. That's at 9:30. Weekend Whiparound, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, probably rather than later. Hopefully, probably, maybe. Starts at 10 o'clock. The Mother Nature got in the way last night for Richmond and Cleveland. And that match took forever. I mean, I legitimately fell asleep before we ended up with any kind of a resolution. It had gotten to the 35th minute, and first and foremost, you had the delay to start the match because of the weather that is working its way across the country and blending its way into the northeastern United States. It took forever. Absolutely took forever. And I think that the match probably ended, about 15 minutes ago? But you got your winner, and we know what's going to happen there. And we have one more match. It's on Tuesday. It's Peter Wilt versus Peter Wilt at Forward Madison hosting Chicago House AC. And so then we'll have our complete layout. And Parzival, to your point, I guess this will be opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And there's your QR code for those of you watching on Twitch. And once again, remember, you use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% and roll it over into youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Parzival's comment we'll get to in just a second, as Parzival's trying to get the house ready for the in-laws for Easter weekend. So the QOD today, Easter candy. The one that you can't be without, the one that you basically hoard from everybody else that they can't have, and the one that you basically give away just as quickly. So we'll deal with extremes this morning with, Michael, it is going to be soggy all week. Don't be surprised if it's a Monday finish when it comes to the tournament in Augusta. And if you're going, dress appropriately, because it's supposed to be in the 60s today, where it is already in the 70s as I look out my window, and it's supposed to be like in the low to mid 80s by the time I get to the in-laws. And so I've got that to look forward to. It's going to hit me a lot later than it's going to hit those of you who are based in the Atlanta area and most of the southeastern United States. But tomorrow's supposed to be really wet. Dress for conditions. Be careful. Be safe. All that kind of stuff. I just don't want to get in any kind of trouble, Ricky. I just don't. Because you never know. You never know when they're watching. You never know who they're listening to. You never know any of that kind of stuff. And I know it is a tournament like any other. A tradition unlike any other. So Question of the day this morning. Easter candy, the one that you can't live without and the one that you basically sit there and go, no, you can have it. And I know. We're not a golf show, but you never know who's listening. Yes. Lose the jelly beans. Uh-huh. All right. So for me, it is oh, by the way, I got to mention what Parzival was doing. For those not in the Twitch pitch, smoothing the stippled ceiling in the dining room this morning ahead of Easter lunch with the family coming over. That's very, very brave. Well done, Parzival. You're a better man than I. For me, obviously, it is the one that I can't live without. And the boss, very, very thoughtful on the boss's part. The boss hoards. And what she does is she tries to find the Reese's eggs. And what she does is she will try and buy like 9 gazillion packets of them and put them in the freezer for me. She's a big Cadbury person. She is a big, yeah, absolutely. Badger Weekend. Absolutely. We are an equal holiday / candy show. Chocolate matzo. I've never tried it. Next time you see me, you might need to bring some by. I've never tried chocolate matzo. Okay. So that's an intriguing one. But so for me, the one that I have to have and hoarded is the Reese's eggs. Pretty much Reese's any time of year, the boss will hoard and she'll put it in the freezer for me. She is a goddess among goddesses. And I know that the one that I hate, I know that I'm going to draw the ire of some. I can't do candy corn. I just can't. I can't. And then you want to try to drink something after you've had the candy corn, and it just tastes like the inside of the container that you're pouring it out of. I mean, if you had a plastic 20 ounce, it would taste like the plastic. You have a 12-ounce can, it would taste like the can. I can't do candy corn. And I know this has been a topic across the board for us for years. Can't do it. Can't do candy corn to save my life. Can't do it. Just can't. So for me, the thumbs up is the Reese's candy. The thumbs down, the perpetual thumbs down is candy corn. And I know that I'm drawing the ire of a lot of folks by doing something like that. I just can't do candy corn. I really can't. Okay, so Parzival with the home improvement down here. Use a closed steamer and a putty knife to take it down. Cuts down on dust and comes off in sheets. Parzival, I'm going to say this. I mean, honestly, you're a better man. You're a better man than I. I could not do what you're doing without bringing the entire house down. So that's why the boss and I just try to. We invest in other individuals who are far better at doing it than I am, or that we are, as a rule. So no, that's far better. You are far better, a far better person than I. So let's see the early returns on the question of the day. Yeah, it is Badger. It is Flamingo on Tuesday. Reese's eggs, Parzival, right there with you. Absolutely. Malted chocolate eggs from D. Graham and black jelly beans. Now, is the black jelly beans the thumbs up or the thumbs down? I can do jelly beans. You know, I can do Jelly Belly and things like that. And the more obscure and the more imaginative the flavor, the better. But for me, malted chocolate eggs, like I said, the boss does she does the Cadbury cream eggs, and she hoards them. She will sit there, and I think we still may have some in the freezer from last Easter. So that's how she operates. She's a Cadbury person. I'm a Reese's person. We all put them in the freezer. We have no space for any real food. So that's where we are. Yeah, lose the jelly beans, according to Michael Valverde. Easter isn't candy; it's chocolate eggs. Let's see. Oh no! Oh, bam! All right. We have a crisis here, folks. We have a crisis. Bam does not know what the Reese's eggs are. What they are, man, I wish I had some here with me in the hotel. White chocolate bunnies, yes. And thank you, Ricky, for explaining. Peanut butter and chocolate eggs. That is what a Reese's. Basically, if you took, Bam, the best way I can describe it is if you took a Reese's peanut butter cup and molded it into the shape of a two-dimensional Easter egg. I mean, it's not like three-dimensional like we would have with others, although Reese's does produce those. Think of it as literally a two-dimensional. It's a flat surface, so it's a flat egg representation that's about, what is that, 3 inches? About 3 inches long and about a half inch, 3/4 of an inch thick. And if we need to, as a public service, look up Australian Easter eggs. Okay, all right. So, well, I know, like I said, I refer to it as a representation. It is a representation of an Easter egg. It is a two-dimensional object. So, Australian Easter eggs. Okay, so BAM as a public service is saying Australian Easter eggs. So Australian, and I know that once again, Australian Easter eggs. Okay, yeah, I mean, and I can completely understand. Yeah, it is like I said, Sherry's Berries, dairy milk, all Australian Easter eggs and bunnies, according to the. Okay, now these folks are getting a plug apparently. The Australian Food Shop is where I'm looking this up, where they say appreciate the treats of an Australian Easter wherever you are around the world. Cadbury Dairy Milk Humpty Dumpty, Shake Me, and there are looks like they're jelly beans inside. You get the Cadbury mixed eggs bag. And like I said, the thing about all of these, in looking at this early on, is that yes, they're all actually egg sized. It's three-dimensional. So you have the Cadbury Dairy Milk, chocolate eggs bag, the Cadbury Dairy Milk Hunting Eggs crate. Reese's does something like that. The Cadbury Dairy Milk Hunting Eggs crate. They have those, and we have those in our freezer. So the Hunting Eggs crate 20-pack, the Darryl Lee Australian Easter Bilby. Okay, so that's 100 grams. Golden Excellence, Toffee Crumbs, Awesomeness plus Pure Milk Chocolate. The hand-rolled hundreds and thousands. Nougat Milk Chocolate Easter Egg. Puddles the Platypus, according to Chocolatier Australia. Cadbury Turkish Delight egg bags and things like that. So that's from our friends at the Australian Food Shop. Yeah, you should. Yeah, Ricky, it not being an egg is a point. You shouldn't want any actual eggs. Yeah, I mean, like I said, for me, it is Reese's. I'm a big Reese's guy, regardless of the season. So the fact that they can come up with the two-dimensional version for me, like I said, put it in the freezer, I'm good. According to BAM, the Humpty Dumpty one that I referred to from the Australian Food Shop is the size of your face. That seems like that's a pretty big egg. That's a pretty big egg. If that's in fact the case, BAM, that it's the size of your face, to me that seems like it's something that would take perhaps, I don't know, the entire year to eat. And I understand that because, once again, like I said, I'm the kind of guy that's going to sit there and hoard and do all other kinds of things. So, no, I get that completely. So, as a running element this morning, the Easter candy that you can't live with, the Easter candy that you can't live without. Easter candy, yes and no. That's the QOD this morning for obvious reasons. And so, yeah. The Australian Food Shop, BAM, was a bit of an eye opener this morning. But that's your opening kickoff, and like I said, let it be a perpetual thing. Badger, apparently, a guy took a real platypus around the town in which he lives, arrested, and faces a massive fine. What's wrong with taking I mean, is the real platypus a pet? Is it like officially sanctioned as a pet? I mean, that's the big question for me. Is it officially sanctioned as a pet? If a platypus is a pet, then a platypus is a pet. If it's legit. If he's just like hijacked it, then okay, so they're native animals and can't be owned as a pet. See, Dude, if you're just kind of, it's like, hey, look what I've got. I've got a platypus. A guy in a platypus walk into a bar. That sounds like see, protected and have poison spurs. Well, if you mention the poison spurs and the guy who decided to keep the platypus instead of make sure that, I don't know, you left him alone, maybe he deserves getting slapped around by that tail. If you're gonna do that kind of thing, let the platypus be the platypus. Leave him alone. You deserve the jail time and the fine and anything else that goes with it, sir. So don't wander around with a platypus. Yes, please. Can you hook me up with some chocolate matzah? I am not in town until I'm not back in town at Office HD until late Sunday, though. So the boss is leaving today to head south. We're not back in town till Sunday. So Abby, hang on to it. If you have some chocolate matzah, hang on to it, because if you take it by the house, no one's going to see it. Yeah. Okay. See, now this is what we're getting into. It's like Abby's got her own personal stash. So once again, Easter candy, Passover candy, what you can live without. That's the QOD this morning. And once again, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch. And what you can do in that case is, once again, use the code soccer down here 15 with our friends at Kickoff Coffee, and they in turn take 10% reinvested into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Open Cup. Bam's already mad about Open Cup and the bylaws. And we had the third round pods, regions, pairings, whatever you want to call them. They came out yesterday, late last night during dinner. We were still waiting for Richmond and Cleveland to A, start and then B, finish. Now we just have the full Mingo matchup on Tuesday to determine who's left. Bam says if it's an Open Cup, you should play who you draw. If it's MLS and MLS, so be it. Doesn't matter what round. And so the Open Cup folks are trying to do is they're trying to keep folks separated, whether it's USL Championship, MLS, what have you, and have the all-in tournament be an all-in tournament. So matchups came out yesterday, and the one that is sticking right now with Atlanta United in their pod, or the region, or whatever you want to call it, is in the South. It's a 6-team region at the moment. Birmingham Legion hosting Chattanooga FC. Nashville SC hosting San Antonio FC. That one is going to be spicy because San Antonio FC, Jordan Farr in net, that's going to be a tough one for Nashville. If Nashville can't score and you got Jordan Farr in net, going to be tough. Atlanta United gets Memphis 901 FC. Memphis 901 FC. Without pistachios, please, Abby. Milk chocolate would be fine. That'd be great. I'm taking orders for for a new round of chocolate matzo. Bless you. So Open Cup, each supporters group, and Abby with the early thoughts here. Supporters group will have availability of tickets. So if you haven't joined a supporters group, now is the time. Yes, it is the Glassy Derby. It is a Glassy Derby with Memphis 901 and Atlanta United coming up in a little over. Good question. With salt or just plain chocolate? Just plain chocolate, please. Thank you. Glassy Derby here. Memphis 901 right now at the bottom of the East in USL Championship. So Stephen Glass, Bill Hamid in net, and that could be interesting. So Memphis 901 and Atlanta United. We're going to go through all of the regions here as we go. Obviously, we'll have Greg Garza coming up in about 6 minutes. And let's go through the ones that are closest to, that have the most fun attached. And we'll get into all the others coming up in just a bit. The Atlantic, Patriots Point, Charleston Battery, and Charlotte Independence. Former USL Championship teams. Now the Independents are in League One. Charlotte goes to the Battery. South Georgia Tormenta. And once again, thanks to everybody in Statesboro for Wednesday and Thursday. Shout out to Darren Van Tassel and everybody at South Georgia Tormenta. South Georgia Tormenta, after knocking off RGV, gets our friend Willie P. and Jess in the next round. Charlotte FC, welcome to the U.S. Open Cup. Southeast, Tampa Bay hosting Houston Dynamo. And you have the Miami Derby. It is Boca versus Fort Lauderdale. The Miami FC, not to be confused with a Miami FC or Inter Miami CF. Talking about the frozen envelopes there. The Miami FC and Inter Miami CF in the Southeast. Then you have another couple of them that are just spicy in general. You look at in the East, DC United hosting Richmond Kickers. In the Central, you got Crew and Indy 11, but you've also got Cincinnati and Louisville. You've got Cincinnati, FC Cincinnati hosting Lou City. That one's going to be spicy and interesting. You've got Detroit City and the Loons. So the Loons, I mean, imagine what Adrian Heath is going to say about going to Keyworth and going up against Detroit City in the next round. And then, you're going to have still Peter Wilt because it's, Chicago Fire, Forward Madison, Chicago House. Midwest, you have the Murder Owls going to St. Louis City SC to take on the new kids in Major League Soccer. And Tulsa Athletic and Sporting Kansas City. Colorado Rapids in the Mountain Region taking on Northern Colorado. Northern Colorado seems to play well on the road. That one's going to be fun. RSL goes to Vegas. Phoenix goes to New Mexico United. It's USL Championship. They play each other in the West, but that one should be fun at the Lab. Sacramento Republic, who survived Crossfire Redmond, hosting Oakland Roots. Monterey Bay at Cardinal hosting San Jose Earthquakes. And in the Pacific, it could end up as Timber Sounders. You got some stuff to get through. Orange County SC and Portland Timbers. San Diego Loyal Seattle Sounders. So we'll catch up with Nico Moreno at 12:30, by the way, and we'll go through all of that. And we'll go through MLS, we'll go through Open Cup, we'll go through what it's going to be like. The Loyal match with the Sounders is going to be at Starfire. That much we do know. But you look at all of these matchups, and there's a lot of these regions in here. In the East, it's also Pittsburgh Riverhounds hosting Maryland Bobcats, who survived going down a man, playing 10v10, then coming back and winning. Then you have Loudoun United hosting Flower City Union and the Revs and Hartford Athletic. But there is some spiciness. Spiciness that's attached. Phoenix has Memphis 901. Yeah, I mean, Memphis, it's like Kissiadoo and Goodrum, and that's just getting started off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, and then if you look at Phoenix, Rising, they're 2s west because they have Jackson Conway, Babacar Njai, and Rocco Rios Novo. So keep an eye on Phoenix Rising, too, who knocked off Greenville 1-0 earlier on in the week. I think, D. Graham, the way that this works in the fourth round is that you're going to be adding more Major League Soccer teams. And so the 3 that survive get an MLS team added to the group. So it's 4. So the 3 that win get a 4th. So you get the MLS teams added in, and we'll see what happens here. They may go to 6. Who knows? But I think off the top of my head, I think that we don't know the fourth round possibilities yet, but you get the winners here, and that gives you 3. And then in the next round, you get a 4th added. And so that way it evens it back up. BAM with the public service, the Scotland women's goal against Australia. And so for those that want to take a peek at it, Evan_M_G. Scotland women's goal versus Australia. And as well you should. On the other monitor, thank you, ma'am. USL versus USL, but they made sure it wasn't MLS versus MLS. That's what gets to you. Okay, that I understand. All right, so it is 9:30, and Luis Fernando now with Memphis 901 as well. So we're going to bring in this guy, and we'll ask him about Easter. We'll ask him about challenging conditions when it comes to the sizes of pitch and the messages that can go to mentors and mentees. And it is that time. It's time for the Friday free kick. So that means that I am going to test my computer acumen from my hotel room. Let's see what happens. Greg Garza joining us for the Friday free kick. Good morning, sir.
Cheers to a good Friday, sir. How you doing?
All right. So you have the Sholos mug rocking this morning. I see how this works. There it is. There.
Yeah.
The personalized Sholos mug. How did this happen?
This is when I got to be a part of putting a star on this crest as well.
Okay. I'm down with that. All right. So we've got a couple of different things to get into this morning for a couple of different reasons. And since it is Friday, and since it is a Friday leading into the Easter weekend, our original question on the board, our QOD, Easter candy. And it has to do with the Easter candy that you cannot live without, and the Easter candy that you're like, nope, you can have it. I don't want it. I ain't touching it. Nothing happening. You can have it, and you can take all of it. What falls into those categories for you?
Okay, Easter candy that I cannot live without would be the bunny, like the Reese's cups, like the bunny.
Attaboy. The Reese's eggs. Is what that's where I am anyway. And I know
the ones that you can get far away from me are the Peep marshmallows. Peeps.
Okay.
Can't do the Peeps. My oldest son, whose birthday is today, my oldest son, he loves those darn things. I don't know how they eat them. It just tastes like plastic dye to me for some reason.
Well, no, you're not wrong in that regard, because all of the sugar and everything that just wraps itself around it with the food coloring and everything like that.
Don't get me wrong, I love marshmallows. I don't know if I'd be a person that would eat marshmallows just the marshmallow by itself. I feel like if I have a marshmallow, it's got to go with something else. So I guess maybe that's my flaw right there, in not wanting a Peep, right? Maybe if it was in 2 graham crackers and a piece of chocolate.
See, now you're getting someplace. That to me, it is absolutely tremendous. Now that's very, very well placed. I can't do the Peeps. By the way, that reminds me. Did you see? I don't know when the last time was you were in a grocery store, but I guess because of the season that we're in, did you see the Peeps flavored Pepsi?
No, I haven't seen these.
Peeps flavored Pepsi products. Yeah.
I mean, no.
I ran away in fear. I was completely, and so when you go into the grocery store, you go down the soft drink aisle. It is literally Pepsi in a yellow can. That is to differentiate the Peeps flavored Pepsi, and I was completely and totally just repulsed and ran the other way.
I honestly, I don't even think I maybe had Pepsi maybe once or twice in my whole entire life.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know too many people who would buy a Pepsi. Maybe that's just me, but I mean, down in Texas, we call everything Coke anyway, right? You want a Coke, you drink a Sprite, it's still a Coke. So
exactly. No, I'm right there with you. No, I'm down with that. But no, I used to be a Pepsi guy, but obviously, I've gravitated toward Mountain Dew and stuff like that. But
I know that's your go-to.
It is, and it's right over there. And the irony, because I'm on the road.
Where are you right now? New York?
I wish. No, Jason is on his way to New York at some point later today. I am in Tifton, Georgia, making my way to the in-laws.
Oh, okay. All right. Making your way. So at Tifton, Georgia, that's a couple hour drive?
Yeah. Here's what happened. So Open Cup, and we'll get into Open Cup as well coming up as a part of the conversation today. Open Cup was in Statesboro on Wednesday. And Open Cup was RGV out of USL Championship against South Georgia Tormenta down in Statesboro. Yes. And so I was at that match, And, it's a 4.5-hour drive from Atlanta as you're heading to Savannah. And so I was in consultation with the boss, and I said, it seems kind of counterintuitive for me to drive from Statesboro back to Atlanta and then a day later drive from Atlanta down to the mother-in-law's place. And because that's a 4-hour drive from Atlanta to South Alabama, down to the other LA. And so she's like, yeah, you're right. So just kind of work your way from Statesboro down toward the mother-in-law's, and I'll see you down there on Friday. So I'm like at a midpoint between Statesboro and LA. And so I'm about 2.5 to 3 hours away from the mother-in-law's, and that's where we're gravitating towards. So it was better to start working my way south as opposed to go north to go south. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. It's just like I said, I'm, me, I'm a half bubble off plum anyway. So, all right. So we've talked Easter candy, and you've by the way, you've lit up the Twitch pitch. By the way, you've lit up. Yes, I was driving 40 miles an hour, Abby, especially on 2-lane roads where you were having other folks who were driving other things other than cars. Open Cup. What are some of your memories about Open Cup and the all-inness of the tournament? What are some of your memories about Open Cup that stick?
I've never played Open Cup.
No.
Oh,
no. Wow. Not in any incarnation of you.
Nope. Yeah, I would say I believe it probably still is today. Open Cup is, I think it's almost like the Copa MX when we had in Mexico. It's kind of giving an opportunity and a chance to for maybe players that haven't been playing regularly within the regular season, and gives them an opportunity to kind of, whether it's shine their way through to the first team or get an opportunity with the starting crew at one point just to see if they're ready. But I mean, I guess that's maybe a good thing that I never played Open Cup.
Well, but if you played Copa MX, it's along those same lines where you have these clubs, regardless of division, they want to knock off the big guy, those kinds of things. So what was it like in that tournament for you playing, being in that
most definitely. And I think it goes back to what I just said, for me, Copa MX, when I did play it, when it was around, it was an opportunity for me to kind of show why I deserve to be there and kind of hopefully be a stepping stone into the starting 11. Or just to, have the opportunity to be called upon, have my name called upon when ready, from the head coach. Right. And so I believe it gives the head coach an opportunity to look at players and say, okay, I can count on this guy if I ever need to throw him in the mix or throw him in the den within a first team game. And, I think MLS teams, from what I've seen in the past, usually see it that way until maybe the quarters, semis, and finals.
Or to the 70th minute when they're down a goal and they've got to bring guys in.
But I mean, I think it's a great way because I mean, you look at examples of Brandon Vasquez, who I believe played extremely well within the Open Cup, and and you look at things like that and you say, okay, I mean, even though I was never a part of it, but it gives a great way for younger players to kind of not necessarily build a name for themselves, but kind of just be in that mix of that breakthrough. If they are ever needed within the first team, then they're there.
Well, and at the same time with your mentees, you always talk about opportunity, and you never know when that opportunity is going to be there. And this is one of those chances, whether in your case it was Copa MX, to sit there and you get tapped and you're like, yeah, okay, it's time for me to show what's going on. Or here in the States with the US Open Cup, it's all about opportunity and taking advantage of that opportunity.
I mean, the most two important words that I always use for parents and I also use for players is, opportunity creates more visibility. Those are the most important two words that I think are a staple for any player out there, right? And you look at these, second, third, fourth, whatever, how many divisions you can have within Open Cup. And you have this player that might be playing in one of the bottom divisions and has the chance to play against an MLS team or a USL, championship team or whatever it may be. It gives them an opportunity to create a way to have more visibility upon themselves. So If they show well, and I'm sure there's probably players that have played in Open Cup and lower division teams and created opportunity for themselves to kind of move up the ranks within league, within teams, and create a name for themselves there. So, like I said, it's an opportunity to create more visibility for those types of players.
And kind of taking the steering wheel and just steering into the other lane. Atlanta United, stylistically, you go up against Red Bulls last week. How frustrating is it when you're going up against a team that you know who they are stylistically, you know what they're going to do, you know that they're going to play a certain way, the ball's got cooties, I don't want to touch it, these kinds of things. When you're having conversations with mentees about teams that play certain ways and trying not to get frustrated knowing that you're going to be bashing your head against the wall for 90 minutes, what are those conversations like about A, opportunity in these situations, and then B, not getting completely and totally just freaked out by what's going on around you, knowing that Red Bulls are going to do a certain thing a certain way?
That's a good question. I think whenever you face those teams to where you're going to have some trouble trying to break their defense down, or I always say try not to play into their hands, right, into their game. If you play a certain way and you're able to just really show what you have in regards to your playing style, then that's what you should go with. There are moments where I do believe some games can be a chess match, right? I mean, I look at our game against against New York Red Bull in the 2018 playoffs, where we played them at home and we played to our style and to our liking. And then when we got there, even though we were on a better aggregate and we had the aggregate on our side, we played their game and we didn't want the ball, right? We wanted the ball as far as away as possible, and we wanted to see what they could create. And really, it was a great point taken and a great idea by Tata, because we were playing against a team that had rarely ever built out of the back, a team that had rarely, and we gave them that leverage, we gave them that opportunity to do so, and it worked to our favor. And so I think there's different situations that you can look towards, and it's all about adaptation and understanding with each other. So when we speak to younger players, I always say, if you have a certain playing style, never let anyone take that away from you, whether it be individually or collectively, because that's what got you there in the first place. But as you get older, you do understand that there are certain adaptations, there are certain ways that you can work around being successful on the field.
I know that a lot of folks, when they look at that first leg, they look at what Chris Armas did tactically that was so anti-Red Bull, and you guys took advantage of it. When you had that conversation and Tata says, we're going to play their way, we've got the 3-0 lead in the aggregate, but we're going to play their way, what was the first reaction like in the locker room? It's like, what's going on? Yeah, I know we've got a lead, but we're going to play like them. What was the reaction?
Yeah, I've probably said it so many times before in interviews, and I might have even said it on the show, but I always recall one particular player in mind. It was Miguel Almiron, and Miguel was thrown on the left side with me to help out, because they were, they had I believe it was Florent Velo, and I want to say who their right back was. I don't really recall right now. But in that situation, I remember they just kept overloading my side, and I just remember Miguel telling me at the beginning of the game, we'll just dump it on their side because they're not going to know how to play out of the back, but I'll help you as much as I can. And that was a great point for him to make, because he did that the whole entire game. He was so responsible. He helped me out defensively the whole entire game. I just remember finishing that game, and even though it was probably one of the ugliest games we had ever played collectively, but we were just so happy with each other. I mean, obviously we lifted the Eastern Conference trophy, but I just remember right after the game going up to him and just we looked at each other, and that was pure teamwork in regards to knowing that we had each other's back, and even though it was playing style that we didn't maybe enjoy, but we knew our role. We knew, and I think that's so important. And Parky always talks about that within a lot of the team environments and the team chats that we have with Beyond Goals is understanding your role. is so important. You have to, and that's a great game to where you have, in my opinion, the greatest player within the MLS at that point in time, who understood a role that he could play that would be absolutely influential to his whole entire team. And even though it was a dirty way and it was an ugly way, but he still played it out, to a way that helped us win that trophy.
When you're talking with mentees, and I imagine that there are going to be those conversations that you have where there will be matches where you will suffer. I mean, and that's a word that you will suffer in matches. You will play against type. You will have to do things you're not comfortable with. What's the response from your mentees when you say, yeah, there'll be games where you suffer? Do they sit there, and it might be a generational thing where they sit there and go, suffer, yeah, right. And then when they experience it, they're like, oh yeah, he really was right, that there is suffering. Do you have these conversations with your mentees about games where they will suffer?
I don't think necessarily about games. I think more so maybe about their trajectory, maybe about their youth career of suffering and moments where not necessarily in particularly games, because I think players do well enough to adapt to every situation that's around them, right? And that's one thing that I always tell parents is that, you're not able to go into your son's or your daughter's body and perform for that person. That person or that specific individual or that player is going to, they're going to have the ability to figure it out, whatever it may be, right? At the end of the day, us as humans and us as players on the field, we're going to figure it out, whether it's the right way, whether it's the wrong way. We're going to learn from our mistakes and our experiences, or we're going to figure it out the best way possible. And that's, you have to let each and every player go through that. I always say, right, I want my kid to fail and on the field, right? I want him to lose some balls on the field. I don't want him to break every kid's ankle whenever he gets the ball. I want him to lose the ball, to see what his reaction is, to see what his transition is, right? Because he'll adapt and he'll learn from that way. I think that's more of the suffering that I speak about with my mentees, and then also just more so within their trajectory, right? Most kids, say most kids really don't know what the word resilience means or perseverance. And I think that's huge. And I think one of the things that we have, we've been really touching base on, and we've been able to have these conversations with the pros, these videos to where we're interviewing particular players. We have Donington Nagbe, Julian Gressel. We just released one with John Gallagher. We have a few other really cool ones that are coming up in the near future, and that's exactly what it's talking about. It's talking about perseverance and resilience and understanding that opportunity is key, but how to prepare and ready yourself with whatever hurdles and obstacles you have to go through, because it's not a straight shot up. It's not, there's no straight line to success. There's always going to be these bumps in the road. And I think sometimes with kids and with our youth, I feel it's so important. The earlier that you can go through those bumps in the road, the better you will be in the long run. And I think sometimes when things are handed to you in the best way possible, and then you experience that bump in the road, sometimes it's so hard to kind of climb your way back up. But that would be the suffering that I try and explain, and I give my personal stories and my personal experiences to those players so they understand and they look, holy moly, okay, that guy's been through a lot, whether it be injury, whether it be failing, whether it be, trialing so many different places and failing, and they get a sense of it and they say, okay, if that guy did it, right? If that guy, Greg Garza, who was an average player, did it for so long, then maybe I can do it. Maybe I can do it as well.
And in the conversations that you've had, whether it's with Julian or Nagbe or Gallagher, it's three guys that have gone through the U.S. collegiate system. And with Julian, it's a top pick for Atlanta United. John Gallagher, another pick for Atlanta United, who's had to go through an expansion draft, and he's had to have his life uprooted. And, you go from Atlanta United, where you're you're growing your game to a new franchise and having to start over. What's it like to get all of these different conversations and all these different angles and approaches from these conversations that you're having with all these guys?
That's what it's all about, right? I think when Mike and I had this idea of trying to understand how we could implement other mindsets within, certain things that they've also gone through, and why the mental game is so important, and why, believing in your own ability, having the confidence, the commitment, the consistency that goes through of, creating your own success in whatever it may be, whether it be soccer or not. Learning and picking these guys' brains, I think has been extremely influential to a lot of the people who pay attention, because we can only say so much, right? It's like when you hear something from mom and dad, it's like they say it over and over and over again, and then after a while, it means nothing, right? And that's the truth. But sometimes when you hear those stories and you hear different experiences from someone else, I think that's the coolest thing whenever I'm on social media, is that, I want to watch those reels of Kobe Bryant, or these guys who have failed, and they have these, and I mean, some people do a great job of putting the story together, but it's those stories of, being obsessed with one thing and one thing only, and working towards that goal, and whatever goes through, or there was just like I just saw a reel this morning when I woke up, and it was the guy who had just completed a marathon at the Classico, who has 75% of his body disability.
Wow.
And he just completed a marathon, and he was the one that gave the initial kickoff at the Classico game of Barcelona and Real Madrid. So I kind of went through his story. He had just completed that marathon right before, and he was able to kind of shake all the players' hands and do the initial kickoff. And like, you see things like that, and it's, it just gives you that extra bit of motivation to say, man, I think especially for these players, right, that are these young players, or they haven't experienced yet resilience, those are the types of messages that I want to send to these young players, because that to me is, not necessarily suffering, because even that guy that, that completed that marathon, he doesn't see his problem as being something that's suffering. He sees it as an opportunity. So as an opportunity to show others, and to show himself, and to prove himself right over and over and over again. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about within going through the ranks of our youth careers, and within breaking into the first team, or using the Open Cup as an opportunity to break in, right? You look at these opportunities, and you don't complain. You don't think it's a way of suffering. You always view every little piece of opportunity as a one to kind of build yourself up, and use that as a stepping stone.
Yeah. Have you learned anything? Have you and Mike learned anything that you may not necessarily have either known or realized about yourselves or about your environments in these interviews with Julian and Darlington and John? What have you learned anything about yourself or about those around you?
Yeah, it was. I was traveling yesterday, and somebody took me to the airport, and we were talking about, our careers, and I think now speaking with other players, and even speaking with a lot of other people, whether they be in the corporate world, or whether they be in the professional, right, the professional environment. I think one thing that I've noticed is that, I would say the word, or the phrase of self-doubt. There's even guys that are at the highest level, or even CEOs, or right, all of these people who are at the highest of they're at the peak. And we have our next guest who will be on the Conversations with the Pros. He speaks a lot about self-doubt, and going through, bouts of confidence, and it's crazy to see. And I'll give a little hint: a guy who just recently signed his biggest contract in his career, and has teams from all over the world after him. So it's, you look at situations like that, and you say, man, how does this guy have or deal with self-doubt, and how does he cope with it? And that to me is the most interesting thing that I see, because I relate to, right? I think my whole entire career was always this fear of failure, right? And I think, you look at, and I think will probably be instilled with me um, until the day I have my last breath. But just that fear of failure within everything that you do, and I think that's instilled, in us, as maybe as a young kid, or going through the ranks, or always I just look at it and I look back at my own career, and I kind of learn from other guys that go through the same thing. And whether it be, I look back at the youth national teams, and I always use that as my example, right? And I was very fortunate to play under 14s, which I was just about to turn 13 years old in the first camp in Boston, to be on the under 14 national team. And then I never got out of that cycle, right? I played every single age group of every single youth national team until the full team. And I know there's very few of us that have done that. I can only think of maybe a couple of names of guys that have gone through every single cycle. And I always played, and I was never, I always played. I was on the starting 11 in every single age group. And so I think to myself, man, I kind of go back and I think to myself, even then, even when I was a 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old kid, I still dealt with that fear of failure, that self-doubt from a very young age, of always wanting to perform for my coaches, or always wanting to perform for my family who has given me that opportunity, or everybody that is kind of watching and has this expectation. You still go through that fear of failure and that self-doubt. And so I think one thing that I've learned, and has been really interesting to learn, is how what I wanted to say with this is, it's interesting to see how other guys who are currently still consistently playing very well and have done very well for themselves, like Darlington Nagbe, like Julian Gressel, like John Gallagher, and all these other guys that we'll speak to, is how do they cope and how do they deal with that self-doubt and that fear of failure. And I think that's something that I learned, right? Even though I went through it, but we all go through it in different ways. And whether it be in my case, whether it be journaling, or for them, whether it be just getting away from it mentally, or it's interesting to see and learn from these guys that are fellow teammates and comrades that do the exact same thing, but to see how they go through those things, to me, is extremely interesting.
Because fear of failure can be one of two things. It can be that motivator, or it can be something that hovers over you and has you perpetually chasing shadows. And that's a delicate line to cross when it comes to dealing with it, because you take one step one way and it can send you to the other side of the aisle just as quickly as if you're trying to treat it as that positive. One moment can send you to the negative side of the aisle just as quickly when it comes to dealing with it, though.
Most definitely. I think maybe if I look back at my youth career and I look back at every stepping stone and every part or obstacle or my trajectory of kind of being at that top level, right? And I guess I can be very fortunate. I can say I played at the highest level from the age of 12 years old, and I never got out of it. And in every rank, in every youth rank, until becoming a pro. And then doing that, having that sustainability even as a pro in every highest rank. And I think to myself, man, maybe that fear of failure and that that level of accountability kind of held myself responsible, and everything that I did was towards that. And I always say there's this guy that I give this to my mentees all the time. I remember when signing with Tijuana, and I had just gotten there, and there was a guy named Juan Pablo Santiago, and he played for Santos, represented the national team a few times. Was very successful, won a ton of championships. And I remember he drove me home one day from one of our scrimmages. I didn't have a car yet. And he was about 35, 36 years old. And today he's the director for Club Tijuana. He's one of the directors. And he was just about to retire. But he told me this. He said, Greg, I know you're a great kid, super responsible. He said, I always give this advice. And he said, everything that you do before training will determine how successful you are during training. And everything you do after training, whatever decision you make and whatever you do after training, will determine how successful you are tomorrow. And man, that stuck with me forever, right? And whether it was understanding that our body was our temple, or the decisions that we made, or everything that I thought to myself, okay, when I wake up, I got to drink a glass of water. When I wake up, I got to do this. I got to do my prehab, my stretching, my, see the massage therapist, see the chiropractor, all of these different things. Okay, that's going to make me successful in training. And then everything that I did after, right? How much rest I got, how all of these other different little things that kept me, accountable. It was a great piece of advice. And, I was able to kind of use that throughout the rest of my career as well.
All right. So before you go, and question from the Twitch pitch this morning from Parzival. How do you motivate the players that have natural talent and have never had to try to improve and not develop a complex?
Yeah. That's really funny because my kids, my son just turned 10 today. So he woke up this morning and he woke up before me, and I walked in the living room and he was watching Thunderstruck on TV, which is a really lame and crappy movie on Netflix, but it's about a kid who gets KD's powers. I don't know if anybody's ever seen it. When KD was like big time, right? And he's still big time, but when he was with the Thunder, and it's called Thunderstruck. And when as he hands the kid the ball and the kid gets his powers, it's so funny. It stuck to me. And that's kind of cool that question came out. He said, hey, hard work, right? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard enough. Right. And that's such a great line, right? Because hard work will, in my opinion, will always, it doesn't matter how talented you are. Right. But talent will never be able to outwork, right, the hard work that you put in. And I'm hoping I said that right. But it's such a great line to look at because there's so many. I can look at my son and say, man, my 10-year-old son is extremely talented, right? And not because I'm just his dad, because he has something special about him that just stands out, right? But at the same time, I can look around and I can say, holy crap, there's a lot of talented kids out there, right? Their talent is an excessive amount of talent within the world that we live in today, right? And that's where that hard work and that will, that desire, that passion, that want, that's where those talented players have to understand that motivation has to come from that. Look at the guy next to you and say, okay, this guy's here. He's not as talented as me, but he works a lot harder than me. So how can I use that as that extra piece of motivation? And that's something that we try to implement and teach our players if they have that talent.
All right. So one quick question. I know we're in stoppage time with you. One quick question. Atlanta United playing in the Bronx in that bandbox. We've talked about adaptation and adjustment today. What's it like playing on that U12 pitch there in the Bronx?
I think I said you got that U12, you got that 9v9. Did you get that from me one time?
Yeah, probably. It is a universal thought.
Okay, I will say this is my. I'm gonna give my guess of what the score is gonna be, and I'm gonna say it's gonna be 9-6. We're gonna win. All right. Because I feel like those games can either be just a 0-0 regular match, or they just outrageously high scoring numbers. That's a great stat to look up. To what stadium has gotten scored on? What stadium has the most goals scored in? That's there you go. I bet you whoever comes on next on the show, hopefully you can have the answer. Yeah. I know. He'd be, Jason would definitely be the guy to know that answer. But I guarantee it's got to be the Bronx, the stadium of the Yankees. It's got to be, because I just feel that those score lines just run up so easily, and it can go back and forth. It can go either way. I personally believe that the playing in that stadium, there is no adaptation, because this is just my personal opinion. I think it's just a flip of a coin of whoever can win. I don't even think New York has a leading advantage playing in that stadium, honestly. I think it's just always a flip of a coin. Whoever brings a little bit more that day will win. There is no chess match in that game. There is no tactics in that game. It's just whoever plays better in the whole entire week. If I were the coach, I would just play small-sided games the whole entire week and see if it would work out.
All right, so let's see if Jason has the answer to the question. Probably not. What's up, Greg?
What's up, man?
We're wrapping up with Greg on the Friday Free Kick, and Greg's question to the floor was: is Yankee Stadium the place where the most goals are scored in matches in Major League Soccer?
Since its inauguration.
I don't know. I don't think so. I wonder what the difference would be actually between Yankee Stadium and the Benz.
Yeah, there's been a lot of goals scored at the Benz, but
Yeah.
I truly believe if I can think of like what if they're like their first year of inauguration, wasn't it against like was it against Red Bull to where the score was like 6-4 or 6-5, right? It was like an
They had
amazing
the
game.
Red Wedding game where they lost like 7-0. Um, they had a high scoring one in there as well. Like the first year, they weren't all that great at home. They were,
Yeah.
like around a 500 team anyway in 2015. But since then, they've been maybe them and the Red Bulls, I think, are honestly the two best home teams in the
Really?
league. Yeah.
Wow. So then you just proved me wrong right there. I said it was always just a flip of a coin, whoever wins there. But I
No,
guess
they're
they use it
so
to their
good.
advantage.
Yeah, it's the advantage, but it's also like they're good. They've
Yeah.
been good.
They've always had a good team, right? I always say, in my opinion, I would say they always have to have the best team because you have Etihad behind your back, right? You can just get players from loan. You look at all the players that they had in the past. What's the Venezuelan, the center mid? Was the last name
Oh,
Herrera?
Yangel Herrera, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, he
was an
was so good.
absolute, I mean, unbelievable. I remember seeing him the first game we played against them in New York and thinking to myself, okay, this kid's going to be big.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was an on loan Etihad player, right?
Mhm.
From City, right? So you like they have a cheat sheet, right? Pretty
Yeah.
much. It's just how they use it to kind of build their team.
Yeah, and that's the question I think for them going forward is you look at it, and I'm sure we'll get into it here a little bit. Like Chanot is getting up there, so they've got to get another center back to go
Right.
with Thiago Martins, and they've got to solve the number 9.
Yeah.
And do they do that more from like maybe the Manchester City side of things? Is there somebody in Manchester that they can loan over, or is it coming from one of the other CFG clubs? And they've done a
Yeah.
lot with Uruguay, and
Yes.
Rodriguez is a prime example of that. Is there another kid coming through down there
Yeah.
that they bring up who's young and maybe needs a little bit of adjustment time, but is a great player?
How many teams do you know what the teams are that Etihad owns?
Oh, I can't
Sorry, we're like
remember.
super stop. We're super stoppage time now, John.
No,
Oh,
no, it's all good. I know Melbourne over in Australia.
Okay.
They've got Montevideo City in Uruguay, Torque. Man, I want to say they've got 6 or 7 worldwide.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here's the list. 100% ownership Manchester City. NYC, they've got 80%.
Yeah.
100% Melbourne City.
Mhm.
100% Montevideo City Torque. 100% Troy in the
And
French league.
French. Yeah.
99% Lommel SK. 65% Mumbai City FC.
Wow.
47% in Girona.
That's right.
29.7% Sichuan Junyu FC. 20% Yokohama Mariners, 80% in Palermo, 90% in Sporte Club Bahia, plus their city football academies worldwide.
But really,
That's unbelievable. Okay.
when you get into that list, though, from an NYC perspective, of like what can help you,
For sure.
it's the Uruguayan club. It
sure.
is maybe Girona,
I
although
was
like
gonna.
you sent Tati there.
That's what the only reason I asked that question is because Tati is not having the greatest of seasons.
Yeah, that
So
club isn't really.
I know. Yeah, they're on. And so I would say maybe that's a way to bring him back to NYC. If I call that next year, Tati might be back at New York City FC.
He might be back in the summer. I mean,
Yeah.
like that's not crazy. If they get through the year and it's like, this isn't really the best fit for him, we'll get him somewhere else in the winter window next year. But yeah, 6 months back at New York City, let's do it.
Might be. All right, guys. I'll let you go. I gotta go get the day ready for my son.
Go spend the birthday with your son. Thanks for hanging out with us.
We can talk soccer all day long, man. So.
Oh yeah.
All right.
All
Be
right.
good, Greg.
I'll
See
see
you,
you
Greg.
guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Greg Garza. We got a lot of good stoppage time material from Greg.
Good stuff.
All right. So you are here. My first question is, how long do we have you considering? Don't you have to catch a flight?
Yeah, I got a flight here in a little bit. 20 minutes tops.
Okay. So we'll go to the bottom of the hour. All right. And if you've got to call it, call it. I know there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Open Cup draw came out yesterday. And it's the Glassy Derby, Memphis 901 and Atlanta United next time around.
Please don't call it that. I won't. That's just popped into my
Let's
head.
not do that. No, I mean, when you look at who Atlanta could have gotten, you start writing storylines, and this is probably the best one out of the batch. I wondered if Atlanta would get, and it's a draw. I mean, you never know, but I wondered if they would get drawn on the road in Chattanooga or Birmingham. I think two places that you could have had a big crowd. You get this at home. It's going to be in Kennesaw. The ticket pre-sale starts today. Memphis is not going to be an easy opponent because, one, you're facing somebody who, very, very easily understands how Atlanta United wants to play. And Stephen Glass knows what he can do to try to make things difficult for Atlanta United. Now, does he have the quality of squad to do that? It's going to be the challenge. It's USL Championship versus MLS. You're talking about two different levels. You're going to have some guys who are very motivated, though. Philip Goodrum. You're going to have Laurent Kessié. Two guys who are focal points for Memphis who have been with Atlanta before. These are guys who are going to want to show out in this match. So how Atlanta handles it, and I asked Gonzalo Pineda about it yesterday, just, the draw coming up, how he was thinking about handling everything. He was totally focused on New York City. So when you get to that time in the calendar, where Atlanta United is will be the question. Can you go with a predominantly first choice group, or do you need to mix it around a little bit? I wouldn't be surprised if we see Noah Cobb in that match. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Machop Chol in that match to start, Miguel Berry to start. It's an opportunity to reward some guys too. So you have this balancing act in the Open Cup if you're in Atlanta United when you go in the third round. It's a game at home. It's a game you should win. It's a game where it can be a reward for guys who have worked really hard on the training pitch all season long and haven't seen as many minutes. And it's a chance to potentially rest some guys who are going to need some of that rest potentially, because you've got a midweek game coming up later in the month with Colorado. So the schedule starts to ramp up a bit, and you got to manage the workload for everybody, for the entire squad. And we'll see how they do that.
And Quentin Westberg, I think, for me, would be another one, possibly in a third round, to give Brad some rest because of that schedule compression too.
Could be.
Just as an idea.
Could be. I mean, goalkeeper's a whole different thing. It's not like you're worried too much about rest there as a goalkeeper, but if you want to give him the night off, you can.
Yeah, and I admit that it's probably the FA Cupness in me that was thinking of that, where you have like the exactly. All right, so let's go Atlanta United specific. Last time out, the match against Red Bulls. Now that you've had time to think about it, what sticks in your brain?
Good performance and good management of the match. They played their game. They passed it almost 80%. They got the early goal, and they were able to be really in control of the game for the majority of it. And that's not easy to do against a Red Bulls team. So, I think what the number one thing that sticks out to me is that they did it their way. They didn't do it in a sense of parking the bus and giving Red Bulls the ball. They played Atlanta United soccer, and that was good enough to beat the Red Bulls on the night, which is great to see. It's a good sign. You got to do the same thing this weekend, where New York City doesn't press, but because of the field size, players are just on top of you. So it's almost like they're pressing without having to press. And you got to do the same things that you did against Red Bulls. You've got to be brave on the ball. You've got to be decisive with your passing decisions. You've got to move the ball quick. And you've got to, in this game, because there isn't a lot of space, like literally there isn't a lot of space, Red Bulls take space away from you. It's the same idea. You got to manufacture some pockets of space to play in. And Thiago Almada, Luis Araujo, Yorgos Yakimakis, I think, are going to be critical to that in their movement on and off the ball to create that space. So it's weird that it kind of works well to play these games back to back because they have different styles of play, but the conditions at Yankee Stadium kind of simulate a little bit of the pressure that you were under against Red Bulls that you'll be under on Saturday, just because you just won't have a lot of time on the ball because there's not a lot of time to be had on the pitch at Yankee Stadium.
What did you take away from practice and just watching the guys getting ready for this match? What were some of your takeaways this week?
Good week of training, good mood, good vibes, good competition. Team that is definitely proud of the work that they put in against the Red Bulls. I thought that was very clear. The work on Tuesday, where we got to see the whole session, was very good. Good intensity on that. And I think they're doing a good job at this point of, you're not trying to increase fitness right now. You're trying to maintain the levels of where you are. And I think they've balanced that well. So it's a situation where, you start to see personalities of guys in training, and you start to see what they can add to it. I mean, Almada still always just wows me at training because of the hard work that he puts in. You see star guys sometimes go a little easier in training, sometimes take, not the whole training session off, but go at a lower intensity. I mean, Almada is slamming his body into Sosa, trying to go up and win a header. He's yelling, demanding the ball. He's being Thiago Almada. And I love to see that in training, because when he's doing it, everybody else has to do it and has to be at that same level. When Giacomakis is making you work, when Ibarra is making you work because he'll come in and level you with a tackle, you have to be on your toes, and it raises the level. And as I've been saying all year, I think the competition for spots is the biggest thing here, because you've got guys in Mateus Hosechu who got injured, lost his spot. Amar Sejdic is holding on to that spot right now. Luis Abram probably came here expecting to play more. He hasn't, because Juan Oporata has been that good. Andrew Gutman now misses a game due to injury. He gets back to full training yesterday. He wants his spot back. Derek Etienne, Caleb Wiley, they started the last game. You get a win. They want to keep their spots. So it's good competition, and that's going to push this team further and further. Santiago Sosa wants to play. He doesn't want to sit behind Franco Ibarra. Ibarra keeps sitting on this. So it's just the competition for spots, the level and the intensity in training. It's really good to see. I like where this group is right now. And you've got to go to Yankee Stadium and now deliver in a match, because the training pitch is good. Comes down to what you do in these matches. And Yankee Stadium is a tough one to get 3 points in. If they do that, then we're having a different conversation about where Atlanta United is in 2023. If you go in to get a result, you're going to be happy with it generally. Because I don't think Atlanta United gets a result at Yankee Stadium if they don't play well and play their game. I don't think you get a result if you don't play well at Yankee Stadium. It's rare to do that. So if they get anything out of this game, I think they're going to be happy with it. If they're one of the rare teams to go in and get a win, yeah, I mean, that should put Atlanta United in that conversation as one of the best teams in MLS in 2023.
You've had the chance to catch up with Glenn Crooks this week and get the NYC FC perspective from things from him and your studying of NYC FC. What were some of the main points that folks need to keep an eye on where NYC FC is concerned? We talked a little bit about it with Greg, but some of the things that folks need to keep an eye on with NYC FC.
You can hear that whole podcast on the Off the Woodwork folder, 92.9 The Game. Glenn swears that the field is 70 yards wide. I'm still slightly skeptical, but he says he stepped it off and it's 70. If it's 70, it is right on 70. It is not over 70. I think he expects Gabe Siegel to get the start this weekend. And then we talked on Monday, so things have, obviously progressed as the week has gone on. But Siegel got the start last game. Magno was back out on the wing. I think they're better that way. I think, even if Siegel isn't maybe a starting level number 9 in this league right now, as he's young and has limited experience, just getting Magno back into a position where he's more impactful, I think works for the group. So, the question coming in is, do you see some other things change? Richie Ledesma, does he get more time? Does he get a starting spot? Do you move Rodriguez back out to the wing? I like Santiago Rodriguez as a player, and I think he can be a number 10 for this group. James Sands has been huge coming back. That was something Glenn Crooks talked about, just getting him back and his presence and being in that midfield. Their worst game since he came back was when he had to drop into the back line. Crooks thinks that Sands in the midfield is the way to go. And I would agree. I mean, Sands and Parks, you got 2 guys who are big, 2 guys who are strong, 2 guys who are technical,
two guys it's not easy to play through, and two guys are going to limit Thiago Almada's space to work in. So how that works will be fascinating. He likes Kufre a lot, the new left back, getting forward. I've always liked Tavon Gray. I think Tavon Gray is becoming one of the better defensive right backs in the league. And we talked about the goalkeeper situation. Matt Freese, a lot of people thought was going to walk in the door and be handed the number 1 shirt for New York City. It's been Luis Barraza. Crooks thinks Freese will get an opportunity as the year goes on, but Barraza has been good. He's been solid. He's been the number 1. He's not given up that shirt yet. So Freese has to wait. He sat behind Andre Blake in Philly, and right now he's sitting behind Barraza in New York.
This is an off the field question.
Oh boy.
Well, no, but it has to do with Yankee Stadium.
Oh boy.
We talked about how it's like for players as you're watching the game to play on Yankee Stadium. What's it like for you and Mike to call matches at Yankee Stadium, considering it's a pinball machine? What's it like for you guys having to call a match in a shorter space? As much as Glenn Crook says it's 70, it's a compressed space. What's it like to have to call a match in a compressed space where you literally are having things happen around you that's faster than normal, I would say?
It's the same as calling a Red Bulls game. I mean, it's the same idea where it's hard to maintain possession. It's a lot of transition. It's a lot of turnovers. It's a lot of back and forth just because of the nature of it. The mechanics of calling it there is hard just because we're further away. So you're relying on the monitor for the most part. At least I do. I've gotten pretty comfortable in using the monitor in general. So it's critical there because you're just so far away that you have to. But no, I mean, I think it's easy to oversell Yankee Stadium in this. Is it an ideal place to play a soccer match? No, it's not. It's a smaller field. There are other stadiums in the world that have more narrow pitches. Bobby Dodd wasn't a whole lot wider than Yankee Stadium, folks. It wasn't. Now, I think the underrated element when it comes to Yankee Stadium in terms of the actual pitch, there's two. One is the length is maybe more of an issue than the width because it's shorter than your typical fields. So that can have a huge effect. But also the quality of the surface, because it's just very hard to maintain a good surface when you're laying sod and taking sod off, and it's an outfield in baseball, and it's tough. That's the number one thing I'm looking for when we get there is what's it going to play like? That space over the baseball infield, how is that going to go? Is it going to be good, which we've seen at times, or is it going to be very difficult to play through, which we've also seen at times? But the game's the game, you know. You adjust. Like I said, I feel like it's an element where playing the Red Bulls the week before actually helps you. Not that Red Bulls and NYC are stylistically the same, but the combination of the team and the pitch and it being smaller, guys are on top of you more, like the Red Bulls are on top of you. I think that's going to help you. Calling a game there is not the most pleasant experience just because you're so far away. But when it's a big game and there's a big crowd, the stadium's got a feel to it. I like it. I like that element of it. And you've got areas of it where fans kind of are on top of the field, which is cool. So it's not the ideal and it's not the long-term solution. And we've known that for years, but it's not, in my opinion, it's not the number one reason why NYC is so good at home. It's because NYC is good. Mm-hmm. And they've always been good, really, since year one in this league. They didn't make the playoffs year one. They've been really good ever since. And they're just a tough team to beat anywhere. Put them on any pitch. They're tough. They're good. So I at times we over freak out about Yankee Stadium. It's different. You deal. You go in and you play, but you got to play a good opponent there.
One more question before you go, and it's about the twos.
Okay.
Once again, we had the Red Bull doubleheader last week. Team got their first point of the year, went to the PKs before it was decided 5-4. We've had a couple of matches with the twos so far this season. What have you seen from the twos? Just in general, what have you liked, and what are your observations as we're a couple of matches in?
I think the grit in the group has been good to see, and that's not always something that pops up with the twos straight away as you're kind of chopping and changing lineups. But the character of the group has been good. They fought in both games. They had a really bad start against New England. They came back to make a game of it. they played the Red Bulls as well as you can play them in the first 45, and then the game got away from them in the second 45, but they held on and kept it at 1-1, took it to the shootout. It's a good group. We're not seeing the academy guys mix in just yet. You have Generation Adidas Cup going on right now. So I think the academy players have been focused there. We will see some, I would expect, over the coming weeks and months before that group that's going to college here in the fall, before they go. I don't think we have another player in kind of a Luke Brennan situation where they've committed to college. They're planning on going to college in the fall, but they might play their way into a contract before that time. I think he was the one that I thought might do that this year with the twos, but he's already done it. He did it in preseason. George Campbell did that back in 2019. So I think we'll see some academy guys mix in. We'll see some first team guys mix in as needed. But for me, I mean, the game this week where they're going to be against NYC on the road, and we will have that. It's going to be remote, so bear with me. I'm going to call that on Sunday night starting at 7 o'clock, but it is going to be remote. Hopefully it's a decent, level of camera to be able to call that, but bear with me. It might be a little bit of a talk show / calling a game. That's Saturday or Sunday night at 7. I'm looking for Noah Cobb's continued development, getting these games. He should be with the twos this week, I would expect, with Abram back with the first team. I want to see Johnny Vial continue to be impactful on and off the ball. And I think that's really the next progression for him. And I want to see the kind of spine with the local guys in terms of Kofi Twumasi, who is regularly a member of first team training. Twumasi is a guy I think Gonzalo Pineda really likes and adds a lot of quality depth to the organization and gives you some flexibility to do some things in first team training that he can then carry over, and he's expected to be a leader for the twos. Tony Tiente expected to be a leader for the twos. Karim Tamimi, I think, getting up to speed with the speed of play at the professional level. Those guys have to set the tone for the young players coming in. And I think, as always, like we've talked about Luke Brennan, you want to see Brennan start to, like Vial, be impactful consistently in matches on and off the ball. So that's a handful of things I'm looking for on Sunday. It's 7 o'clock against NYC FC 2. I think they're playing at St. John's, if I'm not mistaken, Belson Stadium.
Right, yeah.
So we'll have the radio call for that on SDH starting at 7.
Broadcast plans for first team.
7 o'clock, Five Stripes Countdown, 92.9 The Game, Odyssey app, Atlanta United app. If you want to listen to us, you got to sync it up old school style, because you'll be listening to Glenn Crooks and Matty Lawrence with the home team radio option from Yankee Stadium. You'll be listening to Tony Husband and Ross Smith on the standard option in English. I'm not sure who's calling it in Spanish. But that starts 7:39 with kickoff, and then we'll have an abbreviated full-time report after the final whistle before we hop on a plane to come back.
Okay, well, just get ready to hop on that plane, get up there, get safe, and have a good call. We will catch up with you, sir, next week.
Adios.
All right, Jason, as always, coming in on Fridays. Great to see Jason get his perspectives on things. And remember, it's a doubleheader weekend. So you'll have Atlanta United and NYC on with 92.9, and then Jason with the call from the game from Belson with NYC FC 2 on Sunday. So there'll be a full weekend with Atlanta United and NYC FC. So very, very cool stuff there. It is time. It is absolutely time. And it is that time where we look at all of the other action going on, all of the other news that's fit to print. And there is some things going on. David Moyes in his win or else, or don't lose or else match this weekend. Sean Dyche apparently was caught commenting about Harry Kane and his acting. And Juve apparently will be having less fans in their stadium next time around. And so we've got that. Marcelo Bielsa, El Loco, is now with Uruguay. And don't forget, and we'll have a fantasy update before we go. If you have not joined the Fantasy League, join the Fantasy League. Jason Wright Agency, Jason Wright with a W, Jason Wright with a W Agency on Facebook. Jason Wright with a W-A-G-E-N on Twitter. Jason W-R-I-G-H-T-A-G-E-N on Twitter. Join the Fantasy League. I'm having a rough start, so you could probably beat me already. But join the Fantasy League. Join the Fantasy League. Join the Fantasy League. We will have our helpful hints courtesy of Patrick N. Smith 82 on the Twitters, and we will have that before we go as well. So we've got all the news that's set to print, all of the action going on around the world. And no, I don't think we've won a regular season game at Yankee Stadium, Ricky. I think it was the one that sticks in our minds is Eric Remetti scoring in a postseason, and so we'll see what happens there. But Ricky, with the you mentioned the last Yankees game before ours was Wednesday, but then you've got the weather conditions and trying to make sure that the turf stays. If it sticks, my gut tells me that it's probably going to be something like chocolate pudding. And it will be a challenge for the horticulturalists in the Bronx to try to keep that turf down and try to make sure that it doesn't get uprooted. So it might be an interesting watch when it comes to how the turf looks when it comes to Atlanta United and NYC on the weekend. So it's time for the Weekend Whiparound, where we go through everything, including juice boxes, and let you know what's going on with all of your facts and fun facts or otherwise. Reminder once again that Thursdays with Nico on a Friday is at 12:30 live on the network here at twitch.tv/soccerdown here, and the audio gets rolled over shortly thereafter. And we will be going through all of those elements as well. So getting everything squared away, and there's a lot of action going on in the evening. So there's no afternoon game on Saturday when it comes to Major League Soccer. Everything will start at 7:39 when it comes to your schedule and your games and everything. And so Weekend Whiparound officially starts now. When it comes to the action on the weekend, as we've gotten through Open Cup, Cincinnati and Philadelphia. This one's on Apple TV and MLS Season Pass. This one is at TQL, and it is at 7:30. FC Cincinnati is a +116. Union are a +242 to draw and a +231 for Union to win. Interesting there. Your fun facts for Cincinnati and Philadelphia. And once again, as we go, let us know, let me know what you're thinking about what's going on in the comments. FC Cincinnati's 3-1 home win over the Union last August, the only victory, 9 all-time meetings, 6 losses, including the playoffs. In fact, outside of the 3-1 win, Cincinnati's managed just 2 goals in 8 games against the Union. FC Cincinnati's won 3 straight home matches for the first time in club history, 14 points through 6. Best start in club history. A win over the Union would give them 17 points, meaning Cincinnati one more than it managed over the shortened 2020 season. Union have lost 3 straight regular season road games dating back to last season, including losing both away from home this year. Philadelphia's longest road losing streak in the regular season since a string of 6 straight, September 2017 to May 2018. FC Cincinnati's kept clean sheets in 4 of their 6 matches this season, including the last 2 in a row. Cincinnati has never kept a clean sheet in 3 straight, while it could equal the most clean sheets through 7 matches of a season in league history, 5, and it's been done 11 times. The goalless draw with the Union and Sporting Kansas City. Andre Blake's 66th regular season clean sheet in Major League Soccer since he became the first choice keeper in 2016. Blake has 64 clean sheets, more than any other player in the league in that time. So it will be interesting. Yeah, ugly draw, probably, yes. Also on the board, you have DC United, and you have, let me see now, this is where I'm having to juggle all this. Once again, Apple TV and MLS Season Pass. That one is also at 7:30, and this one is at DC United. So at Audi Field, DC's a +160. So is Crew, basically. So juice boxers don't really know. +164, and your draw is a +242. Columbus, fun facts. Unbeaten in 4 straight meetings with DC United, winning 3 of them, including the 2-0 win March 4 with Lucas Zelarayan scoring both goals. Zelarayan has 8 goal contributions, 6 goals and 2 assists in 7 career matches against DC United, equaling most in any opponent in MLS play. Cincinnati is in parentheses there. Since a 2-1 win over Orlando City July 31st, DC's managed just 2 wins in 19 matches. 11 points DC's earned since the beginning of August 2022 are the fewest in MLS in that time, including St. Louis, who already have 15. Crew have recorded back-to-back wins for the first time since the start of the 2022 season with a 6-1 win over Atlanta, the 4-1 win over RSL. 10 goals Columbus scored in those matches, most in a 2-match span in the club's MLS history. DC United won an MLS high 62.3% of their aerial duels this year so far. Steve Birnbaum has won 29 of the 34 he's been involved in. That's 85%. Best among all MLS players been involved in at least 10 aerial duels this season. Lucas Zelarayan scored once, provided an assist in the Crew's 4-1 win over RSL on Saturday. Zelarayan's recorded a goal and an assist in 9 matches in his MLS career, more than any other player since he joined the league back in 2020. Also on the board with Major League Soccer, it is this is when your computer locks up and you have no earthly idea what game you want to go to next. So Inter Miami and FC Dallas. Inter Miami is a plus 127. Your draws a plus 241. FC Dallas is a plus 212. And the Inter Miami match is also on, let me see how they're phrasing it. It's on the free version of Apple TV. So this one's at DRVPNK and it's on free, the free section of Apple TV at 7:30. And with this particular matchup and fun facts, once again, this is at DRVPNK. And as we look at this particular match, I know a lot of you are focused on Joseph Martinez not having scored in his previous 5 matches when it comes to his activity involving Inter Miami. First meeting between these two in Florida. Dallas avoided defeat in each of the first 2 meetings, both in Texas, 2-1 in October 2020 and a draw in July of 2022. Inter Miami's the 3rd team in MLS history to lose 4 straight games after collecting 6 points from their first 2 matches of a season. Only Chicago in 1998 recorded 5 consecutive defeats, including 1 breakaway shootout loss after opening the season with 2 straight wins. FC Dallas has opened the season with 2 wins, 2 draws, and 2 defeats, including last season's playoffs. They have 5 wins, 5 draws, 5 losses over their last 15, dating back to August of 2022. Joseph Martinez has not scored in his first 5 matches with Inter Miami All-Starts, marking the first time in his career he's gone 5 straight MLS starts without a goal. Scored 4 goals in 3 career matches against FC Dallas, scoring at least once in each match. FC Dallas conceded an equalizer in the first minute of stoppage time in their 1-1 draw against Portland on Saturday, including the playoffs. Dallas has conceded a goal in 12 straight matches, the longest active run without a clean sheet in Major League Soccer. The game that is on Fox, it is on Big Fox, 7:30. LAFC and Austin FC. LA big favorite at BMO Stadium at a minus 222. Your draws a plus 369, and Austin is a plus 559. When you look at this matchup on Big Fox, first and foremost, since it is on free TV, it's also on the free version of Apple, as well as the over-the-air. Fox is going to do their super hyper mega pregame show. 7:55 kick. So 7:55 if you're going to watch it on Big Fox, or if you're going to watch it on Apple TV. LAFC beat Austin in 3-0 in last season's Western Conference Final after Austin had won both regular season meetings. 14 of the 18 total goals in the 7 all-time meetings between the sides have been scored in the second half, including 10 in the final 30 minutes of the match. LAFC's won 14 of their last 16 home matches in Major League Soccer, including winning an MLS Cup and a penalty shootout. LAFC's lost only 2 of their last 26 home matches in Major League Soccer, though one of those defeats came at the hands of Austin last May. Austin has lost 6 of their last 7 away from home, including last season's defeat in the Western Conference Final. Prior to that run, Austin had lost only 2 of their previous 12 on the road in MLS play, winning 8. LAFC has played 2 scoreless draws in their last 3 MLS matches after going a league record 115 straight regular season matches without a goalless draw. LAFC managed just 11 touches, and the Rapids inside the Rapids, 18 on Saturday, equaling the second fewest in a match in the club's MLS history. 7 is the fewest, and that was against Dallas in September 2022. 4 of the 7 goals Austin has conceded have been scored 75th minute or later, including Colorado's equalizer March 26. Austin has dropped 5 points on goals scored in the final 15 minutes of matches this season, and that is the most in Major League Soccer. Also, it is, we talked about Miami and Dallas. New England and Montreal, it's on season pass. That one is at 7:30. 3 more matches at 7:30, including New England and Montreal. Right now, New England is a minus 114 in Foxborough. Your draws a plus 278. CF Montreal, soon to be Impact, probably, maybe, hopefully sooner rather than later, perhaps not, is a plus 288 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. CF Montreal beat New England twice last season after the Revs had won the previous 6, and all comps marked the first time Montreal won all of its meetings with the Revs in a single season in club history. 4 wins and a draw. New England is on 13 points after 6 matches this season. Last year, it took the Revs twice as many games to get to that mark, recording a win in their 12th match to go from 12 points to 15 on the year. CF Montreal's 5-0 loss to Vancouver equaled the second largest margin of defeat in club history, behind only a 7-1 loss to Sporting back in 2019. Montreal lost 4 of its first 5 of a season for the first time since the inaugural campaign in 2012. Carlos Heel scored New England's lone goal in their draw with NYC FC on Saturday on a shot from outside the 18. Since the start of 2021, Heel's 5 of 7 Heel's non-penalty goals have been scored from outside the 18, the highest percentage of any player with more than 5 non-penalty goals. In that time, Romel Kyoto has scored 4 goals against New England since joining CF Montreal in 2020, including the playoffs. Only Tati Castellanos with as many goals against the Revolution in that same time frame. Also in your 730s, it is it is Red Bulls in San Jose. That one is on season pass. Red Bulls are currently a minus 154 with San Jose traveling across country. Draws a plus 293. San Jose is a plus 418. And once again, 739 kick. Red Bulls have won 4 straight against San Jose, longest ever win streak in the series. New York has scored at least 3 goals in 4 matches, longest such streak against a single opponent in regular season play in club history. Red Bulls have collected 6 points through 6 games this year, despite conceding only 5 goals. In the post-shootout era, since 2000, only one team, Seattle in 2013, 5 points on 5 goals conceded, had fewer points while conceding 5 or fewer goals after 6 matches in a year. Quakes have won 3 of their first 6 this season, including a 2-1 win over the Dynamo on Saturday, going back to the 2012 Supporters Shield winning season. That was the last time San Jose won 4 of their first 7 of a season. They won 5 of their first 7 in that year. Red Bulls losing to Atlanta held Atlanta to just 8 shot attempts in the match. New York has faced an MLS low 41 shots this year, equaling the fewest after 6 games of a season since 2010, and that was the LA Galaxy back in 2013. Cristiano Espinoza has created an MLS high 21 chances for teammates this season, created at least 3 chances for teammates in 5 of their 6 matches this year, more than any other player in Major League Soccer. Just so you have the numbers, the juice boxes for Atlanta and NYC FC. NYC is basically an even money favorite. They're at a minus 101 in the composite. Atlanta and the draw are basically the same, just north of plus 260. 8:30, you've got 4. At 8:30, you have 1 at 9:30, and you have 2 at 10:30. You have Chicago Fire, Minnesota United. And Chicago Fire, interestingly enough, in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal, Chicago is favored in this one over Minnesota. It's on free Apple TV. Chicago's a minus 101. Minnesota United in the draw, they're pretty much within shouting distance of each other, in and around anywhere from 260 to plus 265. So on free Apple TV from Soldier Field, Minnesota United, they've lost only 1 of their 5 matches against the Fire, winning 3. Though that defeat came in their last visit to Chicago, a 2-0 loss in May of 2019. Minnesota scored the last 5 goals in the series, coming from 2-0 down to draw 2-2 in November 2020. before winning 3-0 in April of 2022. Chicago's goalless draw with DC United was their third draw of the year, winning one, drawing one, the third in 3 home matches. The Fire have played 8 scoreless draws since the start of last season, the most in Major League Soccer in that time, while Minnesota's only one of 2 teams, Austin being the other, that hasn't played one, obviously excluding St. Louis. Minnesota United, they won their first 3 road matches of the year, equaling the longest road win streak in club history, and that was in June and July of 2022. Only one team in the post-shootout era since the year 2000 has won their first 4 road games of a season. That was Red Bulls. That was 5 straight last year. Kai Kamara, who played for Minnesota United in the 2020 year, has scored 4 goals in 6 career matches against Minnesota United. More than half of his goals, 72 of the 140, have been scored against teams he played for at one point in his career. Minnesota United, they've conceded 3 goals this season despite facing just 15.4 shots per match. And that's third most in Major League Soccer. Opponents have hit the target with a league low 20.8% of their attempts against Minnesota and scored with just 3.9%, second lowest in Major League Soccer, with Nashville at 2.9%. So that's your info there with Chicago and Minnesota. Chicago favored. Very, very interesting. MLS season pass at 8:30. Houston Dynamo and LA Galaxy. 3 more games at 8:30, as we mentioned. And Houston right now is a plus 145. Draws a plus 236. LAG is a plus 185 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. Road team has won each of the last 3 meetings between the sides, including the Galaxy winning their last 2 matches in Houston. Galaxy have lost only 2 of their last 8 visits to Shell Energy, winning half of them dating back to 2016. Dynamo have won 4 of their last 6 at home, drawing 1, losing 1, dating back to the end of last year, including winning both home matches this year. They haven't won 3 straight home MLS matches since their last 3 home games in 2019, with the 3rd win in that run coming over LAG. Galaxy with 3 draws and 2 losses, winless through 5 for the 4th time in the post-shootout era since the year 2000. Since the Galaxy have gone winless in 6 straight matches to do so, doing that only once back in 2003 when they didn't get their first one until their 9th match. I mean, Bassi has scored from the spot in each of Houston's last 3 matches. Only one player in team history, Cubo Torres, did it in 5 back in 2017. Scoring more penalties in a single season. No players ever scored a penalty in 4 straight matches in MLS history. Gaston Brugman, speaking of LAG, completed 92 passes for the Galaxy on Saturday against Seattle. Ricky Puig completed 85. Brugman at 83%, Puig at 70%. Are the only 2 players averaging at least 70 successful passes in 90 minutes this season, with a minimum of 250 minutes this year. So that's your breakdown of Houston and LAG. Also at 8:30, it is Kansas City and Colorado. This one is on season pass, as well as Houston and LAG being on season pass. Sporting is a minus 123. Your draws a plus 281. Colorado is a plus 318 in that one. 8:39 from Children's Mercy Park. Sporting has lost only one of their last 9 matches against the Rapids, winning 4 and losing 4. Daniel Shallowy, and that dates back to 2020. Daniel Shallowy has scored 4 or assisted 1 in 5 of the 6 goals Sporting has scored against Colorado since the start of the 2021 year. Sporting, having drawn 3 and lost 3, they're winless in their first 6 of the season for the second time in club history. The first 7 in 1999. Sporting and Colorado have each scored 2 goals in 6 matches this year, tied with 4 other teams for the fewest at this stage of season in MLS history. And the Rapids, once again, having drawn 3 and lost 3, winless through 6 for the third time in club history. First 6 in 2003, the first 11 in 2019. Colorado, who drew 1-1 at Austin in their last away match, they have not avoided defeat in consecutive road matches since a 6-game unbeaten run when they won 4 and drew 2 back in July and September of 2021. Eric Tommy has hit an MLS high 12 shots on target, yet to score. Tommy's 24 total shots are the second most in Major League Soccer, behind Martino Hayda's 26, 10 more than any other player without a goal this season. Danny Wilson attempted a career-high 6 shots, all in the box in Colorado's draw with LAFC on Saturday. Wilson is the second defender since 2010 to attempt 6 shots in the box in a single MLS match, along with Laris Mabiala for Portland, who did that against the Rapids back in 2019. Also on the board, it is Nashville and Toronto at Geodis. Nashville's a minus 152. Your draw's a plus 294. Toronto FC is a plus 409 in this one. This one's on season pass on Apple TV from Geodis. So that means it's going to be an 8:39 kick. And your thoughts from this match at Geodis. Toronto's won their last two with Nashville after going winless in their first three, drawing one, losing two. No team has ever won 3 consecutive league matches against Nashville SC. Nashville kept their 4th clean sheet of the season in a 2-0 win over Orlando on Saturday. Nashville's allowed just 2 goals through 6. Only 2 teams, the Crew in 2020 and Sporting in 2012, had 1 each. They've allowed the only 2 that allowed fewer at this stage of the year. Toronto drew Charlotte 2-2 on Saturday. They had a 2-0 lead. Toronto's one of 6 teams that had taken a lead in a league-high 5 matches this season, though it's gone on to win only 1, drawing 3. The Reds have dropped a league-high 9 points from winning positions this year. Hani Mukhtar scored once, assisted once in Nashville's 2 goals over Orlando on Saturday. Mukhtar's 8th match with a goal and an assist since joining Major League Soccer in 2020, as only the Crew's Lucas Zelarayan with 9 has done so more often in that same time period. Bernardeschi's Olympico was the 5th in MLS since the start of the 2016 season. On Saturday against Charlotte. Michael Bradley headed in Toronto's second off a corner. First time Toronto has scored twice off corners in a regular season match since September 2015 against the Chicago Fire. 9:30 starts. Real Salt Lake and Charlotte is only 9:30. We've got 3 more matches to go before we get you through gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we go. 9:30 RSL's an even money plus 100 at Rio Tinto. And your draw's a plus 265 in the composite. Charlotte is a plus 252. And looking at the schedule on this one, this is on free Apple TV. All the other ones are free. All the other matchups are not in season pass. They can be accessed free on Apple TV. But looking at Salt Lake and Charlotte from Rio Tinto, since the beginning of 2020, RSL has 2 wins in 13 matches, drawing 6, losing 5 against Eastern Conference opponents. That's tied with DC United with 2 wins, 2 draws, and 7 losses for the fewest wins against teams from the opposite conference in that time, excluding St. Louis. RSL have lost each of their last 2 matches by a 4-0 scoreline. The club's second time ever losing by 4 or more in consecutive matches. Last time was in 2017. Also, the 4th time in league history a team has lost consecutive games by 4 or more while also not scoring in either one. Charlotte overcame the 2-goal deficit at the break to get the 2-2 road draw at Toronto. 3rd time since mid-September, Charlotte has earned a point after trailing by 2 or more at any point of the match, winning 1, drawing 2, and losing 3, after losing their first 9 such games in MLS play. Gavin Beavers made his MLS debut against Columbus, becoming the youngest keeper to play in an MLS match in team history. The only other teenager to ever play in the net for RSL was David Ochoa. Played once as a 19-year-old back in 2020. And Kamil Jozwiak scored his first league goal in his 24th match, also adding an assist in the draw. Jozwiak, the 6th different Charlotte player to have a goal and an assist in the same MLS game, with only CF Montreal with 8 having more such players since the beginning of 2022. Christian Kalina is still listed as out, recovering from his back injury. Ashley Westwood is out as well. I believe it's a thigh injury there. And you can catch that one with Will and Jess from our friends at WFNZ on WFNZ's app and on Odyssey, on the Odyssey app there as well. Your 2 10:30s, Seattle and St. Louis. Seattle's a minus 159, and St. Louis City is a plus 318 in the draw, and St. Louis to win is north of plus 400. Vancouver is a minus 112 hosting Portland. Portland is a plus 287. Your draw is a plus 277. The fun facts for the 10:30s with Seattle and St. Louis. Once again, these are on the free version of Apple TV. And it is 10:39 kick. Sounders have lost only one of their 10 home matches against an expansion side, the 1-0 loss to LAFC in 2018. LAFC is the only expansion team to beat the Sounders twice in the last 2 years. They've done it twice. 13 points from their first 6 matches. Seattle, 8th time in 15 MLS seasons they've had at least 10 points after 6. Sounders haven't allowed a goal at home this season, Last kept 4 straight regular season home clean sheets from April to May of 2015. St. Louis lost for the first time ever in club history Saturday, the 1-0 loss to Minnesota United. St. Louis has won each of their first 3 road matches, as only one team in the post-shootout era since 2000. The Red Bulls, with 5 straight, did that last season, won their first 4 road matches of a season. Jordan Morris has scored 8 goals through 6, tied for the second most after 6 in a season in MLS history. Edson Buttle had 9 back in 2010. No player has scored more than 9 times in their first 7 appearances of an MLS season. And both Edward Lewin with 4 assists, Joao Klaus with 2 goals and 3 assists have contributed to at least 1 goal in each of their first 3 road matches in Major League Soccer. Only 6 players in MLS history have recorded a goal contribution in each of their first 4 away matches. And your last note for the matches at 10:30 out west, it is Vancouver and Portland. Once again, that one's also free TV on Apple. And BC plays at 10:39, including the playoffs. Timbers have won 7 of their 14 visits to BC Place. They've lost 5. Starting with the 1-0 win in the first MLS game played in the venue in 2011, the 7 wins are Portland's most victories in a single road venue, including playoffs. Vancouver's coming off of the big 5-0 win over CF Montreal. And if you listen to the weekend review, you heard Vanni Sartini's comment after that match. Tied for the largest win as an MLS team with a 2017 playoff game against San Jose and a CCL win over Real España earlier this year. Also the largest win ever by a Canadian team over another Canadian team in MLS play. Timbers had a 1-1 road draw against Dallas despite being behind entering the second half stoppage. Since September 17 last year, an MLS team has earned a point in a road match. It trailed in the 90th minute or later 4 times, 2 of those being by Portland, also at Columbus. Marking his first career MLS start, Simon Bashir scored twice, becoming the first Whitecaps player to have a brace in his first MLS start since Camilo and Eric Hasley back in 2011. Bashir has scored in all 3 of his MLS matches, trying to be the 5th player to score in each of his first 4. Frank Boli came off the bench, scored 6 minutes into his MLS debut after signing with the team from Ferencváros back in March. Fastest into an MLS career a Timbers player has ever scored. Record previously held by Brian Fernandez in 2019 at 13 minutes. So that's your rundown. That is your weekend whip around. Abby, thank you for everything, as always. Yeah, I don't think Reynosa is coming back either. We'll make you milk chocolate matzo crack, no salt, no pistachios, no macadamia nuts. Thank you. No nuts. Not a good. It's just I'm a basics guy. I know that surprises you. Be careful with the storms coming after 2:00. No doubt about it. Everybody be safe in that regard. What is going on in the world? Before we go, it is gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and things left unsaid. And what we will do is we will blow through all of those other things that are going on, and obviously getting into all of the news that's fit to print. You're having some Good Friday matches in the lower divisions over in England, as Jason says. I can't quite do it the way that he does. But from our friends at The Guardian, it is the club. I know that this will shock you when it comes to West Ham. David Moyes is on the brink of being fired, according to Jacob Steinberg. Serious consideration to making a change if they lose at Fulham and plunge deeper into relegation trouble on Saturday. Expected to be safe if he picks up at least a draw, but he's running out of time to save his job. Out of the bottom 3 on goal difference. Major alarm at the board level after the 5-1 home defeat by Newcastle on Wednesday. The club have been keen to keep the faith with Moyes, in part because they haven't been able to identify a suitable replacement. Odds for Atlanta United and NYC, Emilio, your juice box is NYC's a -101. Both the draw and Atlanta United in the composite are basically a -262 or a -263. So no replacement has been lined up for David Moyes. Remained patient. However, there's no guarantee that Moyes will go if Fulham beat West Ham, who've only won once. Graham Potter wants to wait until the summer. Understood slim chance of Brendan Rodgers taking over. West Ham are aware Rafa Benitez would be willing to step in, but they don't want to give him a long-term deal. Another possibility is placing Mark Warburton, part of the backroom staff, in interim charge. West Ham obviously hoping that Moyes can revive his fortunes. We'll get into that in just a little bit. Sean Dyche Andy Hunter at The Guardian. Sean Dyche expressed incredulity over Harry Kane being tested for a concussion at Everton. Believes the England captain's theatrics show how football has accepted gamesmanship without question. The Everton manager accepts that Abdoulaye Doucouré deserved to be sent off for raising his hand into Harry Kane's face, but said the midfielder, quote, certainly doesn't need to apologize. He added, quote, I thought at one point he might have snapped his eyelash, which would have been tragic, but it seems to be responding okay, in quote. The Everton manager believes the contrast between the scrutiny of Doucouré's dismissal and Lucas Moura's sent off for a dangerous foul on Michael Keane is a sign of how, quote, precious, end quote, football has become. Dyche says, quote, the strange thing about football, the following of football, the rules and governing bodies, is that on one night you have a player who, in theory, is very close to getting a broken ankle, nothing is said, and another gets a broken eyelash, and it's like the world is going to end. Okay, good that Sean Dyche isn't taking anything seriously when it comes to head injuries, but yeah, so I'm just going to stop that right there. I'm not going to go any further. I'm not going to give it the time of day. Juve has been hit with a partial stadium closure after racist abuse of Romelu Lukaku. They've been ordered to close part of their stadium for the next home match against Napoli by an Italian sports judge after Lukaku was racially abused during, and this is from press agencies over in Europe, after he was abused during Tuesday's Coppa Italia semifinal. The Tribuna Sud section of Allianz will be closed for their game against Napoli on April 23rd after racist chants were heard coming from that area during the first leg draw against Inter. Italian news agency ANSA reported that Juve have banned 2 fans from their stadium after video footage of the incident went viral. Good start. It's a good start, but to the fullest extent, that's what I'm looking for. Fullest extent of the law. You've banned fans. How are you going to enforce it? Traditionally, that is going to be my question, and it will always be my question. How are you going to enforce it? Gus Hiddink says that Frank Lampard should be given the Chelsea job for good. Don't know about that. Let's see. What else is going on that we need to know before we go? Let's get into players and such. Once again, reminder. And we got to get into fantasy too. Once again, just a reminder, Thursdays with Nico on a Friday. That is coming up at 12:30 on the network. So here's your player movement gossip. Chelsea have contacted Jose Mourinho about returning, and we got that from Relevo yesterday in Spanish. You also got the Saudi Arabia offer from Corriere dello Sport. Chelsea eyeing a summer move for Benfica striker Gonzalo Ramos. Inter wants to tie Alessandro Bastoni down to a new contract amid interest from Manchester City. Barcelona confident they can sign Joao Cancelo from Manchester City this summer, currently on loan at Bayern Munich. Manchester United have been in talks for weeks over signing Jeremy Frimpong from Bayer Leverkusen, who still want €50 million for the Dutch fullback. Barcelona, Bayern Munich have followed Manchester United in meeting with Frimpong's agent over a potential move this summer. That comes from Fabrizio Romano. AC Milan have reached an agreement with Rafael Leao over a new contract. Arsenal have made West Ham's Declan Rice their prime target after cooling interest in Leicester's Yuri Tielemans. Arsenal could make a summer move for Feyenoord's Turkish midfielder Orkun Koşu. Kylian Mbappe features prominently in PSG's video to promote season ticket renewals for next year. No mention of Messi or Neymar. Marcel Sabitzer would consider making his loan move from Bayern to Manchester United permanent, according to our friends at Sky. Arsenal stepping up their efforts to sign Swiss midfielder Djibril Sow from Eintracht Frankfurt in the summer. West Ham's Jared Bowen, wanted by Newcastle. Leeds looking to sign Weston McKennie permanently from Juve if they avoid relegation from the Premier League. It's from Calcio Mercato. Turkish club Altay SK say that Manchester City, Atletico Madrid, and Sevilla have made offers for their defender Efe Sarakaya, who is 17. Valencia's Edinson Cavani says he's not thinking about retiring, and Spurs have taken Ben Brannan, 16, on trial from Kilmarnock before a possible potential move. What is on the board? I know that we need to take a peek at the Prem, as he says. So take a peek at the odds and the matchups this weekend with the Premier League. And it is tomorrow. Your early match is Manchester United and Everton. Manchester United's favorite at a minus 192. You've got a lot of matches at 10 o'clock Eastern. Villa hosting Forest. Villa favorite at a minus 161. Brentford hosting Newcastle. Newcastle's a road favorite at a plus 110. Fulham at home, a plus 181 to West Ham, who's a plus 166. Leicester hosting Bournemouth at a minus 109. Bournemouth north of plus 300. Spurs and Brighton, juice boxers threw a blanket over the whole thing. Basically, they don't know. Both around 163 to 164. And Wolves and Chelsea's your last 10 o'clock Eastern. Chelsea on the road's a minus 106. 12:30 Southampton, north of plus 1140, taking on Manchester City at home at a minus 385. On Sunday, Leeds and Palace, big battle in group number 3. Leeds is a plus 112 at home. Crystal Palace is a plus 263. Liverpool and Arsenal. Arsenal on the road is a plus 140, and Liverpool is a plus 186. Now, what to watch or what's on TV today before we move into fantasy before we go? And once again, join the Fantasy League. Jason Wright Agency, AGEN, Jason Wright Agency with a W on Facebook, Jason Wright AGEN on Twitter. Join the Fantasy League, join the Fantasy League, join the Fantasy League. Okay, so Friday. BN and Espanol have Liga at 3 o'clock. MLS Next Pro, doubleheader at 8 on Apple TV and MLS Season Pass. Austin FC 2, Tacoma Defiance, St. Louis City 2, and Houston Dynamo 2. ESPN Plus has everything. Belgian League with Bruges at 2:40. 4 matches today in the championship. The second one's going on right now, second half, Watford and Huddersfield. Sunderland, Hull at 12:30, Middlesbrough, Burnley at 3. League 1 is going on right now. Also, Oxford United, Sheffield Wednesday. Australia-Scotland friendly just wrapped up. La Liga Santander, Sevilla, Celta Vigo is at 3. Liga MX is on the plus with Tijuana and Querétaro. And Santos Laguna and Juarez Liga MX Femenil is also at 11 o'clock. Paramount Plus today has a triple header. Just underway, Salernitana and Inter, Lecce Napoli at 1, Milan Empoli at 3. And in the championship in Scotland, Partick Thistle and Queen's Park, they are at 2:45. Now, the Jason Wright Agency fantasy tips for the week. So let's go to Jason Wright with a W, AGEN on Twitter, and get the hints for the week. And I will probably end up using all of them because I need all the help I can get. Lock, goalkeeper or defense, Brandon Bye at $8.5 million, only owned by 13%. Carlos Heel in the midfield is a lock against Montreal at $9.6 million, also owned by 13%. Consider Graham Zusi on defense at $7.8 million against Colorado. Only 4% have picked him up. Jordan Morris is your consider at forward at 10.1 against St. Louis, 21% owned. And this week's help is coming from Matt Wojtekso at Matt_Wojo on the Twitters. Value pick Steve Clark in net against LAG. 2 clean sheets in 2 home matches. His opponent have already been shut out 2 or 3 times. And your value pick in midfield and forwards, Leo Chu at $5.6 million against St. Louis. Only 6% have owned right now with Leo Chu. So that is your rundown of the week. If we missed anything, let us know. And we will go back over it. Obviously, you'll get the posting of this show. You'll get the Greg Garza segment. And once again, Thursdays with Nico coming up at 12:30 Eastern time. It'll be good to catch up with Nico to get the Western perspective on things and talk a little bit about a lot in Major League Soccer. Thanks for putting up with me and travel all week long. And May, an excellent Parsifal. The ceiling in the dining room no longer has stippling. That's very, very good. You are far better at it than I am. Once again, later today, 12:30. Thursdays with Nico on a Friday. You're here at twitch.tv/soccer down here. Roll over to the network later. And Jason mentioned after the NYC match on Saturday, which you can catch on 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app and 929thegame.com. Atlanta United 2, NYC FC 2 from St. John's Sunday night. That'll be on the network here as well. So may all of you have a fantastic, a safe, and happy weekend. Stay dry, stay warm, and may we all be back here keeping an eye on Atlanta United on Saturday, the Twos on Sunday, and we'll be back at Office HD on Monday. So yes, exactly, the Red Storm, Emilio. And so for everybody here at SDH, for Jarrett, for Jason, for Nick, I'm just John. Thanks to everybody who has been here all week long. Thanks to everybody in Statesboro. Thanks to everybody here in Tifton. We'll be back at it again early part of next week on Monday. So for everybody here at SDH, play it safe, y'all, and we will catch back up with you at 9:05 on Monday morning. Mucha plata, y'all. Play it safe, and since it's the end of the show, that means I get to do this.